Well, welcome back to the GT Cup Europe Championship, and for the first time in 2025, we go racing, setting around the Portimao circuit here in the heart of the Algarve. We're going to be witnessing something special. 4.653 kilometers in length, that's 15 turns, 9 to the right, 6 to the left, a clockwise direction with 50 minutes of action and a driver change window from the 21st to the 29th minute. The air temperature stabilizing at 19 degrees, track temperature 26 degrees with a 53% humidity here around this Portuguese circuit. It's Paul Meyer who will be starting from pole position alongside Laura van den Hengel, representing the Burgers Motorsport team by HWM. Let's see whether they can go from lights to flag. 3 different classes here represented in this championship this season, with the introduction to silver class for this brand new season. My name is George Morgan. Back alongside me in commentary, it's Chris Stevens. Chris, how are you doing?
Absolutely fabulous, George. And having looked into the myriad of track limits abuses that there were in qualifying, there hasn't been too much movement in the grid. So it's still Paul Meyer at top, and he was really the benchmark throughout the entire qualifying session, really. So Burgers Motorsport, a brand new race team, but run by the Hans Wies Motorsport crew, but the Burgers name coming from a partner of Laura van den Hengel, now supported by the Iron Dane. So setting up a new race team there, and so on debut it's pole position in the GT Cup, but of course that's a Pro-Am car, and then we've got an Am car on the front row of the grid as well in the form of Nathan Braun's for Q1 Track Racing, whereas we were expecting the front runners in the race, especially by the checkered flag, to come from the new silver class for 2025, where we have 7 cars in that category. The first of them, Gonzalo Fernandez in this car, the number 53, starting on the second row of the grid.
Yeah, absolutely right. 3 different classes on the front 3 placings in the classification thus far. We welcome back as well Dieter Schweppes alongside Leandro Martins ahead of this new season as well in the 911 Porsche. Of course, for the first stint, it will be Leandro Martins behind the wheel. Back again, obviously, after reaching the Am crown in 2024. Hasn't been any stop in Q1 track racing this far in this championship over the last 4 years. They have taken 4 championships on concurrent. Ever since 2021, it's been their story, but can someone else try and turn the tables? No doubt if you are Murtel Motorsport, you'll be looking to do that very same thing, and with certainly a very grand representation in terms of Ferraris that they have brought to the table, with the 296 now taking a firm handle in the GT Cup Europe. They'll be looking to do just that. So we go racing here, the first of 6 races we're going to be bringing you across the calendar throughout the course of the 2025 season. And as you already would have known from the opening graphic, this will be a race spanned across 50 minutes of racing, with driver changes coming through the course of the middle part of the proposed race length. So we'll soon find out as to who's going to come out on top as we now watch as Gonzalo Fernandez makes his way down the hill through out of Gulp Corner. He'll then be setting his place on the grid, much like this man, Evgeny Leonov, who's also had a colourful history around Portimao, Chris.
He certainly has. I'm sure he's not got great memories of the final corner after spinning away the win on his debut in the championship a couple of years ago. But this is year 3 now for Volcano, and the team boss, Andrei Kachenko, saying that this is becoming more of a core focus for the Volcano team, having obviously come from TCR competition in Spain, and they're looking to add a second car potentially later in the season as well to join Evgeny Leonov. So that'll be one to watch out for later in the year, but obviously for now we're keeping our eyes focused on what's happening in Portimao. And there's the 488 challenge, still 3 of those here alongside 2 of the new 296 challenge, all from Murtel Motorsport, who are also making their GT3 debut this weekend in the older sibling to this series, the International GT Open, something of a feeder series with reigning champions Luca Ludwig and Ivan Velasco moving up to GT3 competition this weekend. There's been quite a bit of movement since the last time we raced in Monza. Kind of the headline moves, we touched on one of them with Laura van den Hengel leaving Murtel Motorsport, but arriving at Murtel Motorsport is Matteo Levisi, who fought for the championship against Ludwig and Velasco last year for the GDL crew. And then we can get a closer look at the pole sitting car. Paul Meyer, a GT4 European champion back in the day. Has been running with Seb Lejeune Racing in the 24-hour Creventic series so far this year, but now, of course, switching his focus over to GT Cup and Q1 track racing with 2 cars inside the top 3. Nathan Braun's new teammate for him this year in the form of Nico van Dierendonck. But Nathan Braun's was a particularly impressive bronze driver last year, considering it was his first year in GT racing, having come up from the VW Fun Cup. And yeah, got 2 class wins last year, and I'm sure he and Van Dierendonck have got their eyes set on that AM title for this year.
No questions at all. Obviously, Van Dierendonck very much a pivotal part of the Q1 track racing outfit, and looking to obviously lift them steps higher, obviously continuing their good run in terms of the team style. New team as well for this season, Fame's team. Luca Franco taking the opening stint, has certainly been very much looking forward to taking to the circuit here in this series, and no doubt obviously looking to get off to a positive start for this brand new outfit. Luca Franco, an Italian touring car champion from last season with 4 wins and 14 podiums. As we now pan across the grid even more, 7th place with Franvel Bugliotti representing GDL Porsche, who also tend to have quite a well-represented lineup throughout the course of this series years gone by. Once more, they have it again with 4 cars representing this season. 3 of them, should I say, single driver outfit. Stinas Longin, who was absolutely sensational last year as well. We welcome him back alongside his teammate too. Obviously, they're certainly ones to watch because they went so close to the title last season, and they got close, but no cigar, unfortunately, Chris.
Yeah, so obviously this year, still in the Pro-Am category, but this is a sub-category now, so they won't be fighting for the overall title,
Pro-Am title,
most likely, but yes, the Pro-Am title for sure. Although looking at the order of things at the moment, it could well be that Pro-Am cars are fighting for the overall title later in the season. SP Racing, back with a couple of cars, sort of smattering of performances from them, but another big bit of news was Leandro Martins setting up his own race teams, LMR. So Martins and Sveps, the reigning AM champions, they're backbot, moving from Rackar to Martins' own team, and they've got a second car with them as well for this weekend. So they're kind of hitting the ground running a little bit, really, with the car. It's the Pro-Am number 56 of Diego Nunes and Peter Furter. But that's an all-new team that Leandro Martins has set up with new crew and everything.
Yeah, we just saw earlier on as well Matteo Lovisi, who, as we said earlier on, has moved across from the Porsche outfits and now moving into, from GDL, should I say, into the Mertel front line, and will be embracing the Ferrari 296 challenge this time. Diego Nunes, yet another Brazilian on the grid, as you so rightly said, lining up alongside Peter Furter for this 2025 season campaign. We'll be hoping for a good start as well to their season. As we now get closer to race time here at the Algarve, and very soon Portimao will be certainly loud. We'll be witnessing all of them certainly make their way down through towards Tour. And let's run you through the starting grid ahead of this very first race of the 2025 season. Paul Meyer will be starting on pole, the first pole sitter of the year, with Nathan Braun lining up alongside him on the front row. Goncalo Fernandez in third, alongside him Cosimo Papi in fourth. Representing AM class. We then have Luca Franca starting 5th, with De Mello starting in 6th as well on the 3rd row of the grid. We then move on to the 4th row with Franvel Bugliotti and Stinas Longin lining up in 8th. Evgeny Leonov in 9th place. Eugenio Pisani lines up in 10th. Moving on to the 6th row, we have Leandro Martins in 11th, with Matteo Lovisi starting 12th. 13th place, Simon Patricola is going to be starting from 13th alongside Diego Nunes in 14th place. We then move on to the next row with 15th place Ludovico Longoni and Giacomo Giabergia starting 16th. 17th place for Antoine Berberic, we starting 17th alongside Tommaso Lavati, who will be 18th place on the 9th row of the grid. Moving on to the 10th row is Luca Maria Attionesi, and then 20th spot for Danilo Paoletti. 21st for Davide Scanicchio, and then in 22nd Luigi Peroni. 23rd spot going Glauco Solieri's way with Camel Perrion starting 24th. And on the 13th row of the grid, last 2 cars, Leo Chen lines up in 25th, and then 26th place for Luciano Privitello. So those are our runners, 26 cars making their way around the Algarve circuit on the formation lap as we look to get underway. A little reminder, there will of course be a rolling start for this as normal here in the GT Cup Europe Championship. The big question is Paul Meyer, Nathan Braun's, who's going to lead heading down in towards turn 1? What can you predict for us, Chris?
Well, normally I'd be banging on about the power of the Ferrari out-dragging the Porsches to the lead of the race, but look at the front 5 rows of the grid, not a Ferrari in sight. So it should be fairly even. Stevens up there at the front of the grid, but this is a very, very healthy grid that we have here for this year. 26 cars you mentioned there, George, and I think that's a record for a season opener for the GT Cup. 20 Porsches, 5 Ferraris, 1 Lamborghini, ready to fight for the next 50 minutes of racing. I guess it's been fascinating to see how the class battles play out in this one because it's such a mix at the moment. In the top 10, we've got 3 Pro-Am cars, 3 Silver cars and 4 Am cars as well. That's all going to shake out in the second half of the race after the driver change window.
Yeah, 3 different brands, of course, on this track as well. Porsche, Ferrari, Lamborghini, at least 1 Lamborghini at the very least. So we will be watching them and seeing who prevails on the day. Like you so rightly said, Ferrari power has been so prevalent, certainly on the main straights, but the Porsche obviously able to work its way in the corners. But like you so rightly say as well, top 5 rows, not a Ferrari in sight. As we now watch them make their way down through towards the final corner before they get underway. As we now right on board with what looked to be one of the Mertel Ferraris, I think, as they now scream down through towards the final bend coming through Galp Corner. And the pace car will certainly train them all the way down through towards the final bend in towards the start-finish line. It'll all be on the front 2. Paul Meyer and Nathan Braun's Pro-Am and Am sharing the front row as we take a sneak peek into the garages. Tsunami RT bracing with anticipation, I am sure, with what I'm sure will be a fantastic season wherever you're watching in the world. There's Laura van den Hengel. She's going to be cheering on Paul Meyer and getting ready to jump in for the second stint. The question is, will it be a W day for the Burgers Motorsport team? Will Nathan Broads be able to excel as well? Many questions to be answered. I'm sure you'll have many questions. We'll do our best, certainly, to answer them for you, as now the 2 lanes make their way up through towards the lights. All 5 lights are currently lit, and for the first time in the 7th season of GT Cup Europe, it's pedal to the metal, and it's go, 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 go. Great start for Paul Meyer, immediately moves over to the outside. Nathan Braun's getting swallowed up. Giancarlo Fernandez looking at the inside as well as they spear through turn 1. We're going to see a little bit of movements. The Volcano Motorsport car also looking to gain some places. A few cars throwing off to the outside of the circuit on the outside of turn 1 and turn 2, and it looked like Leandro Martins might have caught on. Leonov's round. Leonov is round coming out of turn 2, so he'll drop to the rear.
I wouldn't be at all surprised, George, if some people get called up for being out of position on the starting grid. You're really supposed to go through the grid hatchings. There are a few drivers who were not playing ball there, but it is Paul Meyer, the pole sitter, who leads no change in the top 4 as it stands, but it was side by side between the 2 Q1 Track Racing teammates going into turn 1. I'm sure that would have been a big, scary moment, but a spin for the 33 there of Franville Bugliotti. Luckily, no one else has collected him, but in the middle of turn 7, that number 33 car from GDR Racing has gone round.
Yeah, and Evgeny Leonov has moved above him as well. We just saw him just prior to the changing of pictures there, so that does mean that Bugliotti is going to be right at the very back of the field, and as we cross the next sector timing line, he will drop to the bottom as we now resume all the action just inside the top, just outside the top 10, I should say. We just caught Leandro Martins making his way through. He had quite a busy start in his own right, wasn't quite able to capitalise probably as much as he would have liked, but still he'll have a whole race to try and gain as they now make their way downhill. As you can just see them cutting to that escape on the far left-hand side, using all the track and more, heading downhill out of Galp Corner to begin lap 2 of what I'm sure will be a thrilling race. Paul Meyer, though, no changes up at the front, Chris.
Yeah, Levisi's had a really good start from 12th to 8th. Now, he's inherited 2 of those, but he's still made up 2 of them himself as well. So, good start there from the Italian. Up into 8th place now for the Mertel Motorsport crew. And moving up to silver category for this year, having been a bronze last year. So there we can see him in that red Ferrari that was just gone through the picture. See 2 teammates line astern there as well. The at 43, making its way around. So Luca Maria Atienese. This is on board a little bit further up the order, heading towards the hairpin at turn 5. We've seen some fireworks down there in the past, haven't we? And Leandro Martins is trying to line up a move there on Eugenio Pisani in the SP Racing Porsche. That'd be for 11th position. So that's the reigning AM champion going up against a Pro-Am car that currently has its Pro aboard.
Yep. Definitely does. So they'll be looking for a big first stint in order to try and maximise the places. Looked like a car exited into the gravel there. Bit of a moment. I'm trying to think if that was the 11. I think that might have been Steve.
Yeah, I think it was Stina's Longin.
Yeah, I think just going a little bit wide as they came over the top of the hill, and unfortunately just might have got himself slightly dispossessed. Doesn't look like he lost a whole lot of time, but coming out of turn 10 through turn 11 down through towards turn 12, it can catch you out, Chris.
Yeah, there's a big elevation drop as well, and as much as there's a lot of runoff around this track, that's actually not a place where there is.
No.
So it is easy to dip a wheel out there, as the 4th place car, Cosmeo Papi, is hooking onto the back of Gonzalo Fernandez there in the Q1 car, and the 23, the Ebby Motors Porsche, that's lost a little bit through the last corner, but of course this is debut for Ebby Motors in GT Cup, and closely followed by Luca Franca, who found the gravel trap in qualifying, brought out the red flags, but this has been a decent start to the race for the number 91, the FAMES team, Srikar.
Yeah, in their debut season as well, and not long established as a team as well. Luca Franca currently 2nd in silver class as well, overall 5th. Obviously, as far as the silver is concerned, that was basically the overall anyway. And currently 5th place at the moment, ahead of Stina's Longin, who I'm sure will be looking to try and close that gap and try and battle. There's a car, that's a Ferrari that's just round wide, I believe, heading uphill.
Patrinicola in the number 80. He was in 10th position, and I think he's just lost that. Well, he's about to lose the place to Eugenio Pisani. Leandro Martin still trying to get around that SP Porsche, and being closely followed by Ludovico Longoni as well in the ZRS Motorsport car, and that's the car that just ended up kicking up some gravel, and that's an opportunity for the number 1 Ferrari 296 of Antoine Berberic to get past as well and up into 13th position. Berberic there is in his 1st season of GT racing, only his 2nd ever race weekend, but because he's 18 years old, he is still classified as a silver class driver. So we'll see how he develops. The son of Ulrich Berberic, who raced with Klaus Ludwig in the Corvette days of the FIA GT. Of course, Luca's father as well.
Yeah. So once again, they look to try and find the optimal line heading downhill. Great effort, certainly from Berberic to get the move done, and for the 55 as well. We're currently watching on board Simone Patrinicola, currently sat in 10th place. Pisani once again haunting his rear spoiler as it stands. More movements as well further up. A skip over the curve there for the 91 Porsche as it flew over. That was Luca Franca. Certainly doesn't want too many of those. Could very easily pivot that rear end and lose out altogether, much like he did in that qualifying session. You alluded to him being in the gravel trap coming out of turn 8 as they now flurry their way down through the 1st sector in towards sector 2. Still at the front, there's Paul Meyer, our race leader. Nathan Braun's just in behind. There's Fernandez as well. All 3 classes represented inside the top 3 as we now look further down with Cosimo Papi and Franca. Stina's Longin as well, with De Mello down in 7th place as well, as they now climb the hill and look to make their way up through Samson Corner. There is Stina's Longin. Like I said before, went so close to the title last season, had a huge race at Spa-Francorchamps. Not quite as big though as Matteo Lovisi, who is of course currently sat in 8th, and really went down to the wire, making his way through the bus stop chicane in that massive fight. But now as they rise up the hill, coming through this very, very tight right-hander, of course you need to really make sure you've got your car positioned well. We've seen a few cars make a mistake, or well, every now and again here in the opening few laps you've had of racing here at Portimao. So they now flurry their way in towards the next left, and will now look to go downhill. 43 minutes left to go. Plenty of opportunity for drivers out on track. Stina's Longin once again having a look, this time on Luca Franca, who's going to be very cautiously watching in his mirrors, but I would say the aggressor out of the 2 of them certainly has favoured Stina's Longin, who might, well, he certainly won't be troubled in making a move should the opportunity present itself, getting straight into that slipstream, looking to get a nice tow. Bit of drag here off the Porsche in front as they now sprint down through towards turn 1 now. Well, Stina's Longin looked to open that door and plumb for the move. Not quite, opted to renege. Slightly defensive-minded there from Luca Franca and forfeits a little bit of speed. Now another opportunity for Steeners Longin to wait if he manages to make the move coming around turn 3. Not quite, but Torovit might be his chance, Chris.
That could well be, so I'll line him up through turn 4 here, try and get earlier on the power down this short back straight. It's a tough move to make, but of course, Steeners Longin, they're on slightly equal footing because they're both silver class drivers, as in their FIA grading, not the classification in the race. It's a Pro-Am car versus a silver car. Going to have to get used to this new terminology now and try and avoid any sort of confusion around that. But still following the 91 around turns 7 and 8. And Luca Franca there, I thought he was going to make the same mistake that put him in the gravel earlier on. That's given the run to the Q1 track racing car, and he's gone through before they even get to the kink at turn 10.
Yeah, the door was wide open. Steeners Longin walked straight through it and now moves up into 5th place ahead of Luca Franca, who now drops down into 6th place. He's got a fair gap though between himself and De Mello. It's now 2.2 as Berberic jumps ahead of Leandro Martins for that 12th spot as well. Martins now down in 13th as we watch them head downhill.
I'm so impressed by Nathan Braun's here. And I know I said it a lot last year, but how can you not be when he's 2.3 seconds off the lead in an AM car? You know, his 2nd year of GT racing up against somebody with a lot more experience and you know, a pro driver as well. I'm going to have to say, I really do not like how they're really abusing the track limits. The problem is that it's really only being monitored at turns 1 and 4. So the rest of the track is sort of free game, really, and I don't like the look of it. It's like that IndyCar race at COTA a few years ago. Do you remember? They were just making up their own racetrack, and frankly, I'm worried about what they're picking up in that runoff area. 10-second time penalty to car number 80, so Simone Patrinicola has been given. Did we see that incident, or was that a first lap one that may have just escaped us?
Well, I did wonder whether it might have been what led to potentially the Eugenia Leonov moment at the very start of the race. We didn't quite see what had happened to him. Obviously, there was a plethora of cars all circled together coming around turn 3, but I'm not quite sure what's necessarily occurred there. Probably something we might have missed out of shot. But 40 minutes to go as we now watch the cars order their way around. There's Nathan Braun, who we were just speaking of. Really made his mark, as you so rightly said, Chris, in the last year or so in this very championship. Obviously came into fruition last season and went on to take AM second with 2 wins and 8 podiums and 1 pole position as well, in a sense. And I must say, credit to him, he's really delivered. And now lined up, obviously, alongside Nicholas van Dierendonk, who is a very experienced, learned driver in the realms of GT Cup Europe competition. Obviously, he's going to be a very safe pair of hands behind the wheel when we move into the 2nd stint. But still, Paul Meyer growing that gap out, and that's going to provide the perfect canvas for Laura van der Hengel to go out later on and obviously look to bring the car home in the 2nd stint.
Yeah, of course, then it's a battle of the bronze drivers if you've had your pro in for the start of the race against the AM runners, and then that's when we expect the silver cars to start making their way up to the front of the field. There's this 3rd place car, Fernandez, a rally convert, and this is his first race in the 992 version of the Porsche Cup car. He's been racing in the Porsche Sports Cup Iberia in the previous generation car for the last year and a half. But Cosimo Papi isn't exactly letting the Q1 car out of his sights. And so we've got 2 really strong AM drivers out there as well. And for De Mello to also be inside the top 10 as well, returning to GT Cup after his brief stint in 2023, yeah, it's very impressive. There is now a warning, just following up on that track limits thing I was mentioning. They're now being told to respect the driving standards at turn 5, 14 and 15, which I imagine is alluding to the sort of general rule about driving generally in a safe sort of conduct and not deliberately driving off the racetrack.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are obviously using it to get the better run, heading down Galp Corner. Just to give
of course.
It's all
but
about
they're doing
momentum.
it out of turn 5. They're doing it anywhere that the track limits are not being monitored. And this is like, look at that and tell me that's not.
Well, I mean,
that just doesn't look right.
In a normal,
but they're only doing what they're hardwired to do, though.
Yeah, I mean, in a normal orderly sense, I mean, the white line is basically the limit. So you know,
it is. Yes,
it
is the limit.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's only so many resources to control those sorts of things, especially on a track like this, where we said in the GT Open qualifying there was something like more than 300 lap times deleted in the free practice sessions. So that's the replay of the start, and you can see they're not in two nice, neat lines either. So I'm sure race control will be looking at that as well and seeing if anybody was out of position at the start. Because you're supposed to go through the grid hatchings, and there you saw the close moment between the two Q1 track racing cars going into turn one between Nathan Bronze and Gonzalo Fernandez. And of course, yes, that was the penalty for the Mertel car.
So it was
for spinning around Evgeny Leonov at the start of the race.
Yeah, just as I had a theory that might have been the case. We're actually riding on board with a Mertel Ferrari now, and he's currently sat in behind the Volcano motorsport car. In fact, they almost go three wide as he's part of that group, but just a nudge in the back, rear right. The front end hits in the rear right of Evgeny Leonov's car.
I'd like to see that again from off-board, to be honest, because it almost looked like he got a hit himself that helped him into the back of
might have been a domino effect.
Leonov. So, yeah, maybe that was the case. There was the spin at the back of the field as well on the opening lap. And then this was the moment that Stijn Slongin got past Luca Franca for 5th position. So just that poor exit for Franca. It's not often we see places changing in that part of the racetrack, but that was an opportunity well used.
It's a pleasure to watch when it does happen, I think, heading through that, because obviously that's kind of corner coming through out of what they aptly call Portimao in itself is... It's obviously a perfect avenue. If you want to go for that different, more aggressive line, you can. We see it a lot in single-seater. Francesco Simonetti enjoyed doing it over the last couple of years as well when we ventured here with the Euro Formula Open Championship. But yeah, it just throws the odd curveball in and perhaps even throws a little bit of uncertainty into the driver you're racing against. So yeah, credits him for that. Diego Nunez has moved up into 8th place as well ahead of Matteo Lovisi, and we've got a few movements further back. Looks like Berberek's had a moment because he's dropping down the order as it stands in accordance to our on-screen timing screen. He's currently sat 16th just behind Gio Berger now. Remember, he was a little bit higher up, and he has lost 10 seconds.
Yeah, last time was 1:58, and the leader last time around for context was in the 1:45s. So that is quite the time loss that the German driver has had there on that previous lap.
So a little moment for Antoine Berberek, it would seem. So we now watch as Cosimo Papi makes his way around now. This might be the reason. There we go.
There you go.
Question
right
answered.
there and then.
I told you we'd be answering questions this year.
Yes.
And that's exactly what we've done. Antoine Berberek now making his way back out onto the track. And that's where the 10 seconds went. A little moment heading in towards the final portion of the circuit, coming out of turn 13 and towards turn 14.
Yeah, so still learning, as we mentioned. It's only his second race weekend after an outing here in Portimao, actually, in the GT Winter Series with Luca Ludwig. Still that battle between Leandro Martins and the 22 of Ludovico Longoni. The ZRS car continues on. And, of course, that is a pro effort. Longoni joining us from the Clio Cup Series in Europe. We're handing over that car to Pietro Armani later on, the Carrera Cup Italy driver. This is back on board with Simone Patrinicola, the number 80 car. He's got his teammate Matteo Lovisi just in front of him, but actually Patrinicola there almost getting done by Eugenio Pisani, and now on the inside the ZRS car against Leandro Martins, very, very tight into turn one. It's quite difficult to get two cars side by side through there, but Pisani's not giving up on this one, and down the inside into turn number 3 does manage to pass the AM champion, and so through into 11th position now.
Yeah, you see Eugenio Pisani, very well-experienced driver, and representing in the silver class as well, a move that he would have needed to get done in order to just try and close whatever gap he could. Obviously now they're only in 11th place. They've got to try and catch up with Patrinicola as well further up, and Matteo Lovisi, but Pisani, who has come here and looking to obviously head the field in Pro-Am. He's had quite a decorated career as well. Italian GT over the last 5-6 years or so, and Porsche Super Cup as well as Porsche Carrera Cup Italy and GT Cup Europe as well for many years. As now we watch that move again happen, and certainly nothing that Leandro Martins could have done about that as they ran wheel to wheel coming through turn 3. And a wonderful moment as Ludovico Longoni moves through and sets his place.
Oh, he's fighting back though, and the ZRS car runs out wide, so that allows Martins to go back through. So a little mistake there from Longoni as he was put under pressure from Martins. Just as he was showing a nose, that put Longoni off. Now, this is Evgeny Leonov in the pit lane.
And it's not during the change.
No, so the pit lane is not open for business just yet, but it looked like they were changing tyres, so maybe he's come in with some sort of puncture, maybe, after that hit. That looked like one of the Mertel cars. Yeah, the 82 has been in pit lane as well. So the 82 Tommaso Lavati, I don't know if we missed that, but that car's in pit lane as well. Some sort of problem, but we'll hopefully get news on that later on. As we're back on board with Patra Nicola here, it's the battle of the teammates going into turn 5. It's 80 on 83, the 296 versus the 488, and down the inside has gone Patra Nicola for 9th position. Eugenio Pisani in the SP Porsche trying to take full advantage of that as well. But for now, that's Patra Nicola through ahead of Levisi. And then Pisani. So 9th, 10th and 11th being disputed there between 2 different brands, but 3 different make of car.
Yeah, this is the move that we witnessed as well with Simone Patrinicola, and managing to catch the car in front just heading in towards Tor a bit. Very nice move, and exactly what he was looking for as we now rejoin Paul Meyer at the head of the order. Has grown the gap now to 5.6 ahead of Nathan Braun's as it stands. 30 minutes and 32 to go, and we're coming down to the final minute and a half before the driver change window then opens up, and then Laura van den Hengel will be putting preparations in place to take over the Porsche for Burgers Motorsport as now Meyer heads through towards turn 1. Goncalo Fernandez also running fairly smartly as well in 3rd place, has managed to grow the gap to a second between himself and Cosimo Papi, with Stinas Long in then 1.2 in behind those. The closest gap that we're currently witnessing is around 6/10 between Eugenio Pisani and Matteo Levisi. That battle is still ongoing, with Patra Nicola starting to distance himself away from Levisi at the moment. So the runner-up for last year's championship losing out to a fellow Ferrari driver and teammate at Mertel, and may have Eugenio Pisani to worry about, as well as he now dives and has a look up the inside as well, heading uphill out of turn 3. Tora Vip now lines up next. Now will Pisani look to throw the odd curveball here this time to Matteo Levisi? He'll be up for a move down the side. No, not near close enough, as they now make their way around this left-hander and then very shortly heading uphill out of turn 5 through towards turn 6. But a really, really positive start here for Eugenio Pisani. So experienced, you'd expect that. And also good start for Patra Nicola.
Yeah, I mean, decent. He's moving forward, isn't he? I'm expecting to see that car a little bit higher up the order, but Patra Nicola coming over from Italian GT. As is Luca Di Marchi. They were teammates last year when they won the Pro-Am Championship in the Endurance Series. So driver change window is now open. By the way, of course, if you're a solo driver, you'll just sit, serve your mandatory minimum pit stop time, and then be on your way. But everyone else, they'll be doing the driver swap then as well, usually carrying a set of tyres through to the end of the race as well. And so it's Luca Franco who's the first one to blink then in the Fames car, so he'll hand over to Ian Rodriguez, the Guatemalan 24-year-old. This is a driver we saw for a couple of outings last year with SP and Race Vents alongside his Italian GT outings and campaign, having come over from the LMP2 category in the European Le Mans Series. So a very experienced young driver. Also coming in, Leandro Martins to hand over to Dieter Schweppes. This was the strategy they ran a lot last year, with Dieter doing the majority of the race. Also in the 78, so no surprise there. Davide Scanicchio, the AM, handing over to the pro, Fabio Barbini. He's also out in the International GT Open this season as well with the Tsunami Racing Team and Johannes Zelga. Kamil Perian also coming into pit lane. That was the 91 car that's just come out of the box and back into the fast lane. I'll be rejoining the racetrack soon.
Also got Pietro Armani stepping up into car 22 as well for ZRS Motorsport in place of Ludovico Longoni, and Armani, who comes in after taking part in Porsche Super Cup and Porsche Carrera Cup Italy, Porsche Sprint Challenge as well, and be looking to come in after also a reasonable, where he took part in single-seaters in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine, and now coming into Porsche competition as he did so over the course of the last season or so. There's no Cosimo Papi, moves up into third. Longin also up into fourth as Fernandez now looks to swap over with Lars Zanen. That's a swap now that's been undertaken over car number 53 as they do beckon their way in for Q1 track racing. And of course Lars Zanen, who's been competing in the 24H series as well as competing in GT Cup Europe last year, took one win at Pro-Am class with 6 podiums last season, so he's very capable. So let's see what he can deliver this time. Yeah,
win in Barcelona was under Prisbalak, despite Prisbalak having a little trip through the gravel after contact with Jorge Cabezas, it was in the Myrtle Ferrari. That was a particularly impressive day for them, but of course new teammate for Lars this season, and now getting aboard the car. So not top 10, wait for the timing to update. 13 cars yet to come in and do their stops, but the 2 GDL cars as well, so Giacomo Giberia and Danilo Paletti also into pit lane as well as a pair of AM cars. I'm sure Paul Meyer will be stretching this out to the last possible moment, as tends to be the case with your pro driver in the car. You want them to get the maximum race time in, really, unless you're going to come up on a bunch of traffic. That's probably the only thing that would change that plan.
Just witnessed Paul Meyer again heading downhill, still not undertaking his driver change just yet, as now we witness Nathan Braun's also sprinting downwards as well. Cosimo Papi also part of this, but into the pits comes now Nathan Braun's. He'll swap in for Nicholas van Durendonk, who will now take the stint for the remainder of this race. Race 1, remember, here at Portimao, getting the new season in 2025 underway, as in comes the Q1 track racing car that has sat in second place since qualifying for that position in this morning's qualifying session. There is Nicholas van Durendonk now ripping out his co-driver, now jumping in and taking place behind the wheel, as now we also have Nicholas Seilenstein's Longin also making a change. Ebby Motors also looking to make a change as well, as they also look to swap out. So already a lot of activity in this pit lane. We're coming to the end point of the driver change window in the next few minutes or so. 3 minutes and 20 left, and Paul Meyer will have to think about boxing in the next 2 laps.
So the question is going to be, how quick is Laura van den Hengel when she gets aboard this car? Can she hold off Nico van Durendonk? So they'll be on equal footing then with 2 bronze drivers in the car. And then we'll have to keep an eye on the Lars Zanen 53 Q1 track racing car, and then the 91 Ian Rodriguez car as well, because I'm sure they still have a pro driver aboard. And I'm sure they'll be putting these guys under pressure for the overall win. Who's that in the pit? That's the second of the Leandro Martins cars, 56. So Diego Nunez handing over to Peter Furter. Peter Furter, the bronze driver in that car, and now in their 3rd season racing together. Peter and Diego, having raced over in Brazil in the Brazil Endurance Championship.
Now watch Paul Meyer make his way through turn 1, turn 2. Get more activity further down the pit lane. We've got Fortuna in the car, as well as Nicholas Salins now taking over from Stina's Longin. Lars Zanen also making his way out, now 7th place in this timing screen. But the net leader, as it stands, is Nicholas van Durendonk, currently down in 6th overall. Into the pit comes De Mello. There is Laura van den Hengel standing by and waiting for Paul Meyer. So that's an indicator in itself that he will, of course, have to come in this lap, as you'd expect. 1 minute and 40 or so left till the end of the driver change period. So all eyes on Paul Meyer coming into the pits now, I'm sure, very shortly. And it's also going to come down to the fact of how fast can Van Dierendonck close, or at least try and mitigate the time, or if any time lost during his driver change window phase. Will he be able to rein that delta in between himself and Laura van den Hengel when she leaves the pits after swapping with Paul Meyer here at the end of this lap? Obviously, with 22 minutes to go, it's then a sprint to the finish line, Chris.
Yep, it's going to be pretty intense at the end of the race. Only 22 minutes left on the clock. Of course, it looks great for Paul Meyer at the moment, but let's see how it plays out, and gives you an indication of how difficult the number 80's day is being, because they're 30 seconds behind the race leader. But Paul Meyer will now be peeling off to the right-hand side, bringing that car into pit lane. And after the mammoth stint of Paul Meyer there from pole position, don't get caught speeding in the pit lane.
No.
And bring it in nice and gently, get a nice quick stop done. And let's see now if they can bring this over to the end of the race. And normally we'd expect the silver class cars to try and make their way through, but anything's possible really with this. So you see the seat insert going in there, Paul helping with the straps, and we'll probably put the netting up as well. I'm sure it's got a more technical term that the teams use for that as well. And have just had confirmation as well that no woman has ever won in GT Cup Europe. And now it's all on Laura van den Hengel to see if she can change that. Also in Simona Patrinicola, as well, as the driver change window is officially closed. So if you're not in pit lane yet, well, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, Luca De Marchi stepping up as well, taking part in Italian GT last year in Pro-Am for GT Cup Endurance, taking victory in that championship that season with 1 win and 3 podiums, alongside what was a stupendous season. Obviously 2021 as well, took part in Sprint GT Cup and several others as well. There is Evgeny Leonov as well. He's got a mountain to climb and try and recover, but out comes Laura van den Hengel, and she will maintain and control the lead of this race, at least for now. And we'll have to wait and see how the rest is going to unfold. Obviously, remember, Nicholas van Dierendonck has already boxed, so therefore he's going to look to try and close that gap. But Laura van den Hengel, with every chance of making history this season in the GT Cup Europe Championship and take what could be an almighty victory.
But she's come out behind, I think, Lars Zanen, Nicolas Solens and Nico van... Nope, sorry, timing screen was just having a little bit of a heart attack there. So we'll wait for the gaps to update. There's a yellow flag out at turn 5 at the moment at Tora Vip. Wonder what that's about. There's also a flurry of warning flags going out for abusing the track limits at turn 14. So everyone's got to try and keep it neat and tidy, really. There we go. So she's got 14 seconds over Lars Zanen, silver class driver, with just over 19 minutes left on the clock. We'll keep an eye on how the sector times unfold. Nicolas Salins behind is also a bronze driver, so that's equal footing there, as is Nico van Dierendonck. So the cars to watch for progress are going to be Lars Zanen and Ian Rodriguez in 5th position.
Yeah, absolutely. Rodriguez, of course, also part of silver class, 1 second behind Van Dierendonck as they cross the last sector timing line. But let's take a look here at a replay. That looks like a Porsche slowing down there on the inside. Lights are flashing. Looks like the car has stopped and therefore unable to restart. Could not quite pick out which one that was.
No, neither could I. But the green flags are now running, which would suggest that that car's been able to extract itself. Was it the 56 LMR Porsche? It looked like that sort of blue and green car. So Peter Furter there, it is most likely. And yes, 64 seconds in the middle sector for the Brazilian would seem to confirm that suspicion.
Yeah, not a great venture coming out of Tora Vip at all, as now Laura van den Hengel makes her way out of turn 2 through turn 3 and then up through towards turn 4. Then on her way down through towards Tora Vip. Still at the lead of the race. Lars Zanen, 13.1 now, so the gap has dropped.
Yeah, 1.4 seconds in the middle and third sector. Obviously, the first sector, Laura was coming out of the pits, so that's not a direct comparison. This is the first flying lap we'll see them both do together. You see the grid progress there. The 22 ZRS car of Pietro Armani has gone up 8 places. This is the biggest mover there in 7th position, but also Lars Zanen has been able to make up ground as well. The LMR car back into pit lane.
Clearly an issue there somewhere. Peter Furted obviously not happy. Obviously the car didn't look like it was finding it easy to run coming out of Tor of Ipse. They were looking to rise uphill. But yes, going back to what you were saying about Armani, he's only just displaced De Mello over that 7th place. So he's now dropped De Mello down into 8th. And so now Armani, 1.8 to find on Dieter Schweppes. So all the silver class drivers now starting to converge up at the front end. And that's the AT. Oh my goodness, that's Patrinicola. Another of the silver class now who's had a bit of a moment heading downhill. Simone Patrinicola heading down in towards Tor of Ip has peeled off to the outside. I would say probably a mechanical issue there or something.
Yeah, definitely. But that should be Luca Di Marchi in the car now, shouldn't it? So I don't know if they haven't updated the driver ID or something on that, because Patrinicola started the car.
It should be Di Marchi. Yeah,
so it should be Di Marchi. Well, it matters not really when it's at the side of the road.
No, at the moment it looks like it's evident that they will be barreling out of the race, unfortunately. But all eyes on how the front end is going to converge, because we've got Laura van den Hengel still up in the front. Armani's taken it another place. He's up into 6th now. After taking De Mello down, he's taken on Nicholas van Dierendonk and now has moved into 6th place. Now, if we have a look at his last lap time, it was a 1:47.428, it would seem. So in comparison, obviously, not quite as fast as Dieter Schweppes was over the last lap, but still, nonetheless, by the evidence of what we're seeing on the timing tower, he's looking reasonably quick as we now see more cars converging through Tor of Ip.
Yeah, so it's managing the traffic now is going to be really important as well for these guys, and not losing too much time through there. And so last time around, 1.4 seconds was the difference between Laura van den Hengel and Lars Zanen in the latter's favour, gap down to 11.3. He's only 1.6 ahead of Nicolas Salins, so he's sort of bringing Salins with him. And in fact, last time round, Salins was actually a little bit quicker than him. And Ian Rodriguez arriving on the scene as well. He's currently the fastest driver on the track, lapping in the 46s. So about a second quicker than Zanen in 2nd. And then Dieter Schweppes running along very nicely as well with a 1:47.0. So he's quicker than the podium runners at the moment as well. So this is going to converge very nicely at the checkered flag, I think, as it so often does with this form of racing.
It definitely does. We've seen it time on time. So now we once again watch as Lars Zanen cascades downhill, coming out of the Gulf corner around a turn 15, and now rushes up towards the line to begin his next lap. Sprinting down through towards turn 1. Let's take a look at that timing. It's now 10.4 between them. 1:47.840, I think that is. That's an incredible gap of about another 1.3. So he's stabilising around the 1.3, 1.4 seconds a lap at the moment in comparison to Laura van den Hengel up at the front. So it could be in the next maybe 5 to 6 laps, maybe a little bit later than that, where he actually does manage to close that gap.
She's lapping consistently, which is the most important thing, really. And of course, there's a bronze driver against the silver class driver, so we expect Lars Zanen to be quicker. It all just matters if she's losing enough time to be caught by Lars Zanen by the end of the race. That is how it goes when you have Pro-Am racing out there. So you see, 1.3 seconds in Lars Zanen's favour. And Salins starting to drop it off the back of Zanen a little bit. So, but Ian Rodriguez is only a second and a half behind the podium now. That'll matter more for Rodriguez, because the silver class cars, as the top class, they don't score points for the order they finish in their class. It's the overall. So Zanen at the moment, he wouldn't get points for being the silver class winner. He'd only get points for being second in the race.
Well, De Mello has just overtaken Van Dierendonk as well, so he's moved up into 7th spot. As now the cars descend downhill again, coming out of the final quarter. Laura van den Hengel now has seen the gap between herself and Lars Zanen move from double digits now down to 9 seconds of the realm. It was as she crossed the line, the gap between her and Salins had since diminished. It's now 8.3. So that goes to show in one quarter alone, almost an entire 0.5 of a second was brought down in between Laura van den Hengel and Lars Zanen. So Zanen really starting to go to work now, and he's starting to gap Salins a little bit. He's 3/10 better off than he was a lap or so ago. But the important thing for Laura van den Hengel is that she maintains the gap to Nicola Salins. That's the key one, the Pro-Am victory.
Yeah, of course, that's class honours there. And although the pace is in Nicola Salins' favour, the gap, of course, is a little bit bigger there. And, of course, it then also depends on how long it takes Zanen to get around Van den Hengel, if he does get up to the back of her.
Closing's one thing, overtaking's a whole
Yeah, exactly. Although the pace difference should make life slightly easier if he does get up to the back of her. But this is when it's all about, like, not making mistakes. As well, because we've seen that happen in the past as well. So the gap now under 8 seconds for the first time, and Ian Rodriguez, the Guatemalan, has very much arrived on the back of the Q1 track racing car as well for the last spot on the overall podium. This is a silver class car chasing a Pro-Am car out of turn 11, the top of the hill. That's that last real overtaking spot on the racetrack, and so line them up down the start and finish straight. Try and maintain the gap as well. Both run out wide, of course, but there are warning flags going out for that now. Race Control's kind of decided they've had enough, and Rodriguez got a real swapper on the middle of the gub corner, but somehow hasn't lost anything on the gap, and so with a bit of slipstream, should be able to close in on the Q1 car down the start and finish straight and into turn 1. And Salins knows this is not really my fight. You go on ahead, mate.
And if anything, he can benefit from the slipstream. And we saw a little bit of that earlier on as well. From
he did that last year, bouncing over the turn 2 car at the start of the race. He was up on the 2 wheels, and
we saw it with Luca Franco earlier on as well in the race too. So very much a carbon copy. Now that might have cost, just coming around turn 3, might have cost Nicola Salins a little bit of time there. Let's watch this again. Rodriguez, obviously, who was closing up to the back of Nicola Salins, just managing to sweep through, coming through towards turn 1, and up on its haunches was the Salins Porsche. Here as we ride on board, front right lifting off the ground as he rumbled over the curve and skipping onwards. Seemed though that he lost a little bit of the car though coming out of turn 3, which might have cost him a little bit of momentum, which will again play into the hands of Laura van den Hengel.
Has it damaged the car as well is the important question, but yeah, that's a really important moment for Laura van den Hengel's Pro-Am race. Davide Larini has got a 5-second time penalty for overtaking off the racetrack, so he's currently in 10th position overall and 4th of the silver class runners in the Myrtle Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo and that car. So it's been a bit of a difficult day for the 83 crew. I'm not sure if that incident that happened was when Matteo Lavisi was driving the car, but nonetheless it's Larini who's got to serve it. Yeah,
which is certainly not ideal, because they are, as it is anyway, on the cusp of the top 10, or just inside the top 10, and they've got Gio Berger in behind, who is still only 2.2 away. And couple that with Fortuna, then another 2.2 back as well, as we now watch as Dieter Schweppes flies downhill through towards turn 1, still in hot pursuit of Nicola Salins as well. It's not out of the question, Schweppes could get Salins here.
Yeah, I mean, they're both bronze drivers, and Schweppes has proven to be one of the fastest bronze drivers in the field. Of course, that car took an overall win last year, which was a little bit helped with Leandro Martin's stint almost entirely being run under the safety car last year. Yeah. But, nonetheless. And they're leading AM at the moment, and another place overall, of course, as well would be quite nice for them. So lead gap down to 5 seconds now. It was another 1.1 seconds that Lars Zanen took out of Laura van den Hengel last time around. So Schweppes was, I was going to say, Schweppes wasn't doing the track limits on the last corner. That's good of him, but he's done it at 7 and 8. So I take back that
no
the corner that was about to
way.
come through. No, absolutely none whatsoever.
No.
He's lining up Nicola Salins here through turn 11, much wider line for the LMR Porsche, and even kicking up some dust, such was his tight line through the kink at turn 12. Zeeland's already been passed by one car. And again, this is good news for Laura van den Hengel in terms of the Pro-Am win, while Zeeland's is getting held up defending against this car or being passed by Dieter Schweppes as well.
Well, here we go. An opportunity here now, just running a little bit wide. We've seen a few cars do that, but if anything, I would say Dieter Schweppes had the better line, cruising up to the back of Nicolas Zeeland's, and indeed on the escape coming out of turn 15. It's now side by side, near enough as they stretched out through across the line, and now Schweppes crossing over to the outside is looking for that favourable run, heading through turn 1 to avoid the curb on the inner. Does not, in fact, plumb for the move this time, but his opportunity might lie in wait, going down through towards turn 3 out of turn 2, and indeed he's going to look for it. A look to the inside, still no avenue, as now still Zeeland holds on to that P4. Dieter Schweppes so pushing and prodding, looking for a move, now heading uphill. They do still have Tora Vip. He's using every line but the one that Zeeland's is taking, and Schweppes now certainly not sweating, looking to the inside on the run down through towards Tora Vip. Heavy braking zone, and Dieter Schweppes will move up into 4th in the 911 Porsche, and will now look to hunt after Laura van den Hengel. An opportunity here for a big result here for the LMR team.
Yeah, so that's 4th position overall now. And what is it, 2.7 to Rodriguez, but I think that's probably the maximum they can do now. They're leading their class, 4th position overall, and here's a replay of the move again. Had to crisscross at every opportunity. I was surprised he didn't go for the inside at turn 1, to be honest, but because he was the one keeping it on the track at the last corner, whereas Zeeland's was not.
Goes to show it's not the fastest.
Well, show that footage to everyone else for tomorrow.
Speaking about fastest, have a look at the gap between P1 and P2 at the moment over the last lap. 149.236 from Laura van den Hengel. Lars Zayden lapping a 148.854.
Yeah,
not much of a gain for Lars Zayden over the course of that last lap.
I think that's traffic, George, coming into play there, because they're coming around the Super Trofeo car and Evgeny Leonov and all sorts of drivers at the moment. And that's what we mean when we're talking about trying to manage the traffic. Now, this is interesting because Ian Rodriguez is closing in on Zeeland. We said he was the fastest of the 3. He's now only 4 tenths away from that car. Now, if they start squabbling, that would be a huge help to the race leader. And you say Rodriguez, so this is for the lead in the silver class, the top category, but for 2nd position overall as it stands. And Rodriguez in the Fames car is going very well down the straight, and he's got him on the inside into turn number 5. Now surely Zeeland is going to try the old crisscross, get the up and under, but I don't think he's going to be able to fight back against the Guatemalan. And now that's probably not as good news for Laura van den Hengel as we thought, because that was probably the cleanest, sliciest move you've ever seen, and it didn't really lose any time doing it. But now she's got an even quicker car chasing her down.
Well, she'd be hoping for, certainly a reply from Lars Zayden.
Yes, quite.
Here's now another Spinala. That's the number 67 belonging to Jacobo Giabergia. So not a good moment for him. But this was the moment where Ian Rodriguez would chuck his Porsche up the inside of Lars Zayden, moving up into 2nd overall right now. And now the mission is clear. He has to start catching after Laura van den Hengel. And I'm sure now, whereas the gaps have been fairly minute over the course of the last few laps or so, just due to the mere traffic, I would imagine they'll start picking up some steam now as we now watch the 2 silver cars start certainly squaring off as they did already. Of course, Rodriguez now in 2nd. Lars Zayden will have the benefit of the toe, but just look, that gap has opened up just a little bit on the run down through towards the start-finish line and towards turn 1. Let's have a look at the gap over the last lap.
3.2 seconds. 1.9 seconds quicker for Ian Rodriguez. We said he was quicker than Zayden, but it's 3.2 seconds, just under 4 minutes left on the clock. This is going to be incredibly tight, George, for GT Cup Europe to have its first woman stand on the top step of the podium, for Burgers Motorsport to win on debut, for Paul Meyer and Laura van den Hengel to get their first win as well. We've got Rodriguez and Luca Franca also going for their first win as well. Franca's debut in the championship as well. There is a lot at stake here for this win. Even if it is between 2 different classes, there's still a lot to be fought for.
Certainly is. 3 minutes and counting. Laura van den Hengel with one of the biggest opportunities of her life to certainly score something massive here in the GT Cup Europe Championship. She, of course, joined it 2 seasons ago. She's back again now this season after a reasonable rise last year as well. And this is going to be every corner matters. 2.8 currently the gap between Ian Rodriguez and Van den Hengel as it stands. Lars Zanen still also in the picture as well, but Dieter Schweppes is now the problem for him because he's closed up onto the rear spoiler of that Porsche on the 53, and Schweppes is going to work. And we know how capable he is, even if the car is a class above. That gap though between Rodriguez and Van den Hengel is coming down by the moment, Chris.
Yeah, Schweppes is one of these bronze drivers that's really only bronze by default because he had a stint of not racing for a while, but he's as quick as any of the silvers out there, really, a proper good peddler. But it's now penultimate lap of the race, and again it is Zanen running out wide. Lead gap now 1.8 seconds, so 2 to go, and the top 5 is only split by 4.5 seconds as well. This is bubbling up very nicely indeed. So last step on the podium still up for grabs as well between Armani, Schweppes and Zanen, all trying to go through there. It could be a podium for ZRS Motorsports on their return to the championship as well. And look, they can barely watch it inside the Hans Wies Motorsport crew. Is this going to be the moment? This is Dieter Schweppes trying to go for the last spot on the podium. Zanen is trying to squeeze him out onto the curbing. Schweppes having absolutely none of it. Both go off the circuit, and Schweppes even gets a little bit of gravel there as well. He's flashing the lights. He's not happy with that at all, and I'm not surprised.
No, not at all. On the run down towards Tora Vip, Schweppes was dancing around on the outside of what looked to be Lars Zanen, and Zanen just obviously just stopping and pushing him out wide on the escape coming out of Tora Vip, and Schweppes again looking for the aggressive line as they now convey coming out of turn 9 in towards turn 10. Turn 11 awaits, and he might be able to have an opportunity to cut down the inside, but Zanen blocks that approach off. But a switch back up the inside now here from Dieter Schweppes as he'll look around the outside on the run up through towards the next left-hander at turn 13. Oh, it's wheel to wheel late on the brakes. Here comes Schweppes at the inside. He takes that P3 and topples Lars Zanen down to P4, and in amongst all the traffic it is going to be Schweppes who will now sit on that podium position.
Watch Armani as well, because he's trying to find his way out there too. He keeps it on the racetrack. Zanen does Schweppes is going to puncture maybe because he's lost control of the car. So both of them go back through, and surely the LMR Porsche is going slowly, so that puts Zanen back onto the podium. Final lap of the race, meanwhile it's 3/4 of a second between the top 2, Laura Van den Hengel and Ian Rodriguez. Is this going to be the yeehaw moment for the Dutch cowgirl, or is it going to be a first victory for Ian Rodriguez? It's not a puncture on that Porsche, but it's certainly going slowly, and so that is such a shame because that is going to cost them the AM win potentially as well. So that's going to give it to the 44 of H. de Mello and the GDL Racing crew. Incredible stuff. But this is the lead battle heading down towards Tora Vip, the hairpin. Laura Van den Hengel has her mirrors absolutely full. I'm sure they were thinking we can go for Pro-Am wins this season, but were they thinking at the first race of the season that there was going to be a potential for an overall win? That's what's on the line here, and there is traffic at play as well.
Yeah, you can see her viciously, well, just really shining those lights, trying to alert the car in front just to give way to the position. Ian Rodriguez is hovering all over the back of Laura Van den Hengel as they race up through towards, well, into the final sector now as they dance through the very tricky portion of circuit that lines up coming out of turn 11. Now downhill once more to come into sector 3. Ian Rodriguez looking at every avenue for this potential overtake. We've got another heavy braking zone here. He hesitates, look in the rear, but Van den Hengel defends brilliantly. She defends the place, and now the daunting run towards the checkered flag and the start-finish line. We are
she's
the final lap.
No!
She's going wide. Understeer has crept in for Laura Van den Hengel. She sacrifices the lead of the race, and it falls into the hands here of Ian Rodriguez. The Guatemalan will troop downhill, cascade now out to the final corner, and for the first time here in the GT Cup Europe in 2025, it's Ian Rodriguez, the first of the silver class, to take victory here in the GT Cup Europe, and Laura Van den Hengel with a memorable podium and a Pro-Am victory for the first time.
Absolutely sensational finish. What a start to GT Cup Europe. And that is Q1 Track Racing trying to work out where they finished as well. Second in class with Nicholas Aylens and Steeners Longin. What a finish. Luca Franca and Ian Rodriguez, a maiden winner. A debut victory for Luca Franca, having come over from TCR Italy last year. That is an incredible moment for the Fames team as well, the number 91 team. I mean, I wonder how heartbroken is Laura van den Hengel going to be with that. It's Pro-Am victory still. She's still the first woman to win in class, I believe, in GT Cup Europe. So history has been made, and on the overall podium too, with Paul Meyer. Pietro Armani did manage to get Lars Zanen in the end, so he and Ludovico Longoni get the podium as well on ZRS Motorsports. Return to the series, and it will be a class podium for Lars Zanen and Gonzalo Fernandez. So not a bad start to Fernandez GT Cup campaign. And the AM winner did go to H. de Mello. Svep still got it across the line in second position in class, but with a 2 minutes 8 on the last lap. And this is the defining moment of the race, George.
Yeah, really unlucky, because she defended brilliantly through the entirety of Sector 1 and 2. But Sector 3, which is where it all counts, it just did not quite work out. The understeer came into play. And yeah, you could see the reaction. Says it all. They knew what they were on the precipice of. But Ian Rodriguez, at the end of the day, he's there to win races, and that's exactly what he's done here this time for the 91 Porsche. Let's run you through the classification, because what a race that was. Stupendous job from Ian Rodriguez. Luca Franca, Victor's Fames team, with their first victory in their debut season as a team. Paul Meyer, who started on pole position. Laura van den Hengel with a heroic drive to bring it home with Pro-Am victory and second place overall. Pietro Armani, what a mighty final stint to finish third alongside Longoni. Fernandez and Zanen in fourth. Longin and Salins fifth. Scanicio and Babini in sixth. H. de Mello in seventh, with Martins and Schweppes down in eighth, just getting it across the line. Van Dieren Donken Bronze in ninth place, third in AM. And then, of course, further down we have Davide Larini in 10th. Anton Berberek in 11th place. Ramagnoli and Atinesi down in 12th. Perry and Tincescu in 13th. Fran Vale Bugalotti in 14th. Then Paoletti Lancieri in 15th. Fortuna and Papi in 16th. Gorgi and Pironi in 17th. Glauco Solieri in 18th place. Giacomo Giabergia 19th. Pisani and Zervi then further down in 20th. Luciano Privitelio in 21st. Leo Chen, Eugenie Leonov, Patra Nicola, Demarchi, Nunez, Berta, Trenton Lavati, the bottom three all out of the race. So, what a moment here for Ian Rodriguez. A victory in the first round here in the GT Cup Europe Championship. What a performance from the pairing of Fames team. A brand new team entering in this season for the very first time. Ian Rodriguez, though, has proven to be quite a tasty character behind a wheel and has managed to lift them aloft into P1. And the celebrations begin here in Parc Ferme as well, and with the rest of the team. He is absolutely thrilled. But I must say, Laura van den Hengel, she made him work for it. Right through the entirety of that final stint, she did absolutely magnificently. She should have no reason to be upset with that. That was a phenomenal drive. And Paul Meyer, here's the reaction.
My Dutch needs a little work.
So does mine, but I mean, credit to both of them. What a drive also from Paul Meyer to open up the weekend with pole position as well, and an overall podium on second place as well for a pairing that did so well during the course of free practice after going fastest in FP1 and FP2. Amazing stuff indeed. Pietro Armani, one of my stars of the day as well.
Yeah, great second stint there for Armani. Storming up through the order, and what was that like 12 places they made up in that race? Or maybe 10 or 11, I think, as well. So Armani was running very well.
Brilliant drive.
Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. And full credit to Ludovico Longoni as well for that first stint. But yeah, Armani's one of these drivers finding a home in GT racing after single-seaters.
Yeah, let's run you through the top three, though. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be for Paul Meyer and Laura van den Hengel. They went close, but nonetheless, they will take the Pro-Am victory off the back of this opening race of the GT Cup Europe. Ian Rodriguez, though, could not be stopped. He rampantly rose to the front here. Victory for the first time ever in silver class. Managed to take victory here overall. We're standing by with an interview.
So that was a nice win, last corner win for the Porsche of Luca Franca, Ian Rodriguez. Luca, how was your part of the success?
Amazing. It's the first race in GT Cup Europe for me, and an incredible emotion. I gave the maximum, but it was incredible in his stint. Super and big emotion.
Ian, so hero of the day, how you managed that winning move?
Well, the hero, it's God, it's not me. He did everything, he helped me through the stint, so really grateful. Thanks to the team, thanks to Luca, we did an amazing job, and it's been very hard, but we did it.
Good, and now time to enjoy the win and podium. Well done, guys.
Well, brilliant job. Let's check out the highlights of how they did it. Certainly a very busy race start, and as they all fanned out and tried to get into an orderly fashion, it was Burgers Motorsport who started off just in the right way, just in the way they would have wanted to. Paul Meyer getting a lovely jump. Unfortunately, in behind, though, for a few others, there would be a calamity, including that Evgeny Leonov got caught as well from the Mertel Motorsport Ferrari in behind. A tap of the rear on the rear right tyre in the Volcano Motorsport Porsche upended him and unfortunately rooted him to the back. He wasn't there for long, though, because he did have company towards the very bitter end. The 33 Porsche getting unstuck from GDL, Franvale Bugliotti, unfortunately meeting a spin heading up through towards Samsung. We then had the driver change window. Of course, Laura van den Hengel hopped into the Burgers Motorsport car. Side-by-side action further up as well, as we then saw the 91 Porsche jump ahead of the Nicholas Salin Steeners Longen car. And yet more action as well as Dieter Schweppes, who marched his way through the field in a bid to try and take a big result as well. But it would all be undertaken late on in the race. The fight would continue. The 91 Porsche of Ian Rodriguez with a mighty final stint in an effort to try and bring himself to within win territory. He would, of course, eventually find himself there, but further back there was yet more drama, this time for Dieter Schweppes, who would eventually have to pull over. And this was the moment where Laura van den Hengel, who was looking for the victory overall, just lost out around the final bend after a little bit of understeer crept in. It went into the hands of Ian Rodriguez, who went from certainly the final corner at turn 15 to victory, crossing the line in the checkered flag, eventually celebrating with his team, Luca Franca, his co-driver as well. Celebrating. It got very emotional during the interview, Chris, and for good reason. A massive moment for Fame's team. First race of a new season. It's only one entry as well, and they took victory.
I'll tell you, it was Rodriguez just slicing through the pack that really made the difference there. Had he been held up for even one lap by anyone on his way up there, he wouldn't have been in that position to take advantage and put Laura under pressure and, have that moment. So, full credit to Rodriguez on that one, because that really made the difference. But it's still going to be second position overall for Laura van den Hengel. So her first overall podium finish in GT Cup Europe, and of course the supported by Iron Dames cap on there as well.
Yeah, she'll treasure that. Certainly a massive moment in her career. Like I said, coming out of KZ Shifter Karts and moving straight into the GT Cup Europe Championship back in 2023, and then she came back again last year before then looking to resume her run here in this series this year too.
Made a GT3 race debut as well, but for now it's the Italian national anthem.
Well,
it was GT3 debut in the 24-hour series in Mugello a few weeks ago. Very late call-up.
Yeah.
And did a cracking job out there as well. So, she's already had a very busy start to this season.
yeah, well, massive congratulations to our race winner, of course, Ian Rodriguez, Luca Franca and Fame's team celebrating with the Italian national anthem just now as well, which certainly can never get old in the world of motorsport. Here as the trophies get presented as well. The Michelin representatives, of course, we saw the first ones being passed across to Pietro Armani and, of course, his teammate as well, Ludovico Longoni. And the second place trophies being delivered to Laura van den Hengel and, of course, Paul Meyer, and our victors as well, Ian Rodriguez, Luca Franca, Fame's team celebrating a first success, and I'm sure there'll be many more if they continue in this vein. But also keep your eyes peeled, I think, on the Pro-Am pairing that sit over in second place overall. They'll be chasing the Pro-Am crown. I would say that this is definitely a statement victory. Chris, more to come in terms of Pro-Am class?
Well, absolutely. Looking forward to seeing what happens tomorrow there as well, because, of course, the order we've seen them run in today will be inversed for tomorrow, which generally has a bigger impact on the Pro-Am cars, because, of course, you're swapping out your Pro for your Am. But, it will be Paul doing the chasing tomorrow, and he's the expert with the champagne there.
He knows what he's doing, that's for sure. And Laura van den Hengel now, this is something I'm sure she's saying to herself, I can get used to this. And we'll see how she gets on when we move through to the action tomorrow. Also, I expect we'll see more from the likes of Pietro Armani as well in good time. We're going to wait for the Pro-Am class now to join the fray. And, of course, Nicholas Salen's being part of this, along with Stinas Longin, Fabio Babini, Davide Scanicchio. There's Babini on the right-hand side, who has had such an impressive career, has done pretty much everything in the world of motorsport, and has actually got quite an impressive Le Mans run of stats really behind him. Has certainly been involved in more than just his fair share of Le Mans races.
Oh, a story time with Fabio Babini is absolutely fantastic. They're like, oh yeah, I was doing 300k down the Mulsanne one year, and the windscreen just fell out. Yeah, what? So
just can't write it.
Yeah, you can't. But great start to the season for Tsunami, and of course, Fabio's busy with international GT Open duties as well this season, alongside the GT Cup with Davide. So this is a good sign of things to come. And for Q1 track racing, with the 11 crew, Nicholas Salens and Stinas Longin, after what was a pretty bitter end to their championship campaign last year with, I believe it was Salens in the car, running into multiple people at the start of the race in Monza. But this is a good way to get things back on track. And, of course, the first class win for a woman in GT Cup as well, and a debut victory for Burgers Motorsport by Hans Wies.
Yeah, it's a huge result, especially given the overall P2 on top of the Pro-Am win. It's just the cherry on the cake, really, at this moment in time. Again, the Michelin representatives now passing the trophies off. Of course, Michelin, a very strong partner for the GT Cup Europe Championship. Trophies presented to all three of our podium sitters here in Pro-Am class: Fabio Babini, Davide Scanicchio, Jesus Pereira, of course, CEO of the GT Sport organisation, presenting the winning trophies to Laura van den Hengel and Paul Meyer, and credit to Nicholas Salens as well as Stinas Longin. They will be back and looking for the big results as well. No doubt they are going to be pushing for that Pro-Am crown as now they pick up the champagne. Obviously, they've already been through this rodeo of Laura van den Hengel and Paul Meyer off the back of the overall. Now we move on to the AM classification, and credit to H. de Mello, who's now come out of this one with his own AM victory. Dieter Schweppes, obviously, with Leandro Martins taking AM P2. They must be feeling a little bit bitter after the moment towards the bitter end as well, Chris. And Nicholas van Dierendonk and Nathan Braun's third in AM.
Yes, and it's a good result for Q1, but definitely the Dieter Schweppes and Leandro Martins car will feel pretty aggrieved after that late problem there. And H. de Mello actually surviving a 5-second time penalty for overtaking outside of the racetrack, which came through after the race, but luckily had the gap to Dieter Schweppes. That would have been quite astonishing had Schweppes been able to pull that back with a post-race penalty.
Absolutely. Well, again, take it to the steps of the podium here. As you can see on the right-hand side, Nicholas van Dierendonk, who's had a very, who's obviously part of the very fabric of Q1 track racing, and part of its incredible success that has seen it win 4 teams titles over the course of the last 4 seasons in the GT Cup Europe Championship. But H. de Mello with a victory I'm sure he'll cherish here in AM class once more as well. Again, the Michelin representatives presenting the trophies throughout the entirety of our top 3 here in AM class. And Nathan Braun's admiring his trophy, I'm sure, with much satisfaction. Dieter Schweppes and Leandro Martins must have been wondering what if, after the problem that occurred coming out of the final quarter that saw them trundle up through towards turn 1. Certainly not an ideal way to bring an end to your race when they could have been on the precipice of some big overall success. But they'll take the AM P2. I'm sure to say the least, and there'll be a long season ahead where they'll be able to take a lot more as well. And with a trophy in each arm after being presented by the Michelin representative, H. de Mello, a victor in AM class here in the GT Cup Europe Championship. Massive congratulations to them in the final photo as well. But what a race, everybody. We will be back, though. Plenty more to come in the GT Cup Europe. Join us tomorrow morning for qualifying ahead of race 2 tomorrow afternoon. Goodbye.